This is our current setup that we're writing some jams on. It is featuring the Digitakt, which is a sequencer, sampler type of thing. We've got the Dreadbox Typhon for the bass right here. We've got the Argon 8M from Modal, which is a wavetable synth. And then I've got the Cobalt 8M, which is a virtual analog synth. And then I've got the new MiniFreak from Arturia, which is a algorithm-based oscillator hybrid synthesizer, which is really cool, a lot of fun. So I just want to take you guys through the setup real quick and let you know that's what we're working on right now. Also, Happy New Year, 2023. Wishing you much musical creativity in the new year. So if you don't know how the Digitakt works, you have 8 channels of sampler. And that's what I currently have in the samples. And then you have 8 channels of MIDI as well that you can assign to whatever MIDI channel type of stuff. And I have number 9 assigned to the MiniFreak, which is that. And then number 10 assigned to the Argon. Number 11 assigned to the Cobalt. And number 12 assigned to the Typhon for bass. And it's always going to be bass for that. So that's how I generally have things set up. If I need some more polyphony, I'll use the additional MIDI tracks. Like if I want to use the additional 4 voices in the Argon, I could set up another track for the Argon and do that type of thing, which is kind of nice because you could have 2 different melody lines or, chordal type of things going on, voicings that change with the instruments with using 2 different MIDI tracks, which is pretty cool actually. What's nice about the Digitakt is it's so hands-on, So I got the global mutes in front of me right here. So at any point I can just mute stuff. Oh, 15 happens to be an additional Cobalt track. Forgot about. So for instance, I can mute all this. 15 is still triggering the Cobalt, and I can bring in the bass. Bring in some kick and snare. Maybe bring in the other Cobalt track. Then I'll bring in the Argon. Play the MiniFreak a little bit. Bring in all the elements. And then drop it down. So that's kind of the gist of it. I don't really have things fully mapped out song-wise, or beat-wise of how we're gonna flow through a track or something like that. I will say what I usually do when it comes to the way that the Digitakt is set up is I reserve 4 patterns for a beat. So I could have intro pattern, main A part, and then a main B part, so they could alternate potentially, or have a little bit of variation. And then the last pattern is usually some sort of outro or a connecting pattern to go to something else, assuming it all goes live. And not to say we're going to do each beat live and connect them. I mean, that is fun. I really do like that. But sometimes we just capture one performance a day and then string them all together in a video later, which is totally fine, obviously. But if we want to do this live, it's totally possible to string this stuff together live for multiple beats. In fact, I'll show you some other stuff that we've done here. Like, what's this one? So that one's kind of like low-key style. Yeah, they're all just ideas right now that we're cooking. Not sure exactly which ones are going to make the cut officially. But that's why you write. Write multiple beats, and then pick the ones that you actually want. I forgot to mention also that we have program changes set up into these buttons as well, or these tracks, I should say. So for instance, program number 7, bank 4 of the Argon. Now, the Digitakt isn't always smart when it sends the program stuff correctly, or at least what I've noticed and remember in the past is sometimes the program changes can be a little glitchy. So that actually might be another reason why we're not necessarily stringing everything together all at once just yet live, you know, because it's a few more technical hurdles to jump before that makes a smooth transition. But that's besides the point. So yeah, you can put program changes into all this stuff, and that's what we've been doing with all 3 of these right here. The Typhon is keeping with 1 patch for the bass, which here, I'll go like this. Sounds great. This is a great synth. The only problem with this synth is that you have to battery power it, or you have to power it with a clean USB source. Otherwise, it's just a lot of noise and filth and all that. Like if you plug it into a PC, 9 times out of 10, it's going to sound dirty, which is, it's kind of unfortunate. I wish they would have put just a regular power supply in there. It's probably to save money, so understandably. But aside from that, it's a great synth. Where was I? Right, so program changes, you know, you can do program changes in this stuff, and like the Argon and the Cobalt and the MiniFreak all have tons of presets. Sonic palette is very wide with all 3 of them, so a lot of options right there. So what I've been doing is going through finding patches and then altering them the way I want for production, and then yeah, that's the program. Use that and try to manipulate it throughout the track. Like for instance, this track. I like to try to, you know, change up the filter a bit on both of these. What's on here? The MiniFreak is great for this, with this performance strips, macro strips. Really gets a nice texture out of there. So now we'll strip it down. I feel like you get a lot of interesting tonal variation when you do that. One thing that's been going on with this, yeah. Getting a stuck note, as you can hear. So there's a reason for that, which I've had to deal with in this setup. So I'm gonna reset this real quick. Typhon's getting reset. The reason why that's happening is because I have the MiniFreak as my main controller to write MIDI parts, but I'm also sending MIDI to it as well. So the Digitakt is receiving and sending MIDI data, and the MiniFreak is getting both ends of it. So whatever track I have selected can actually produce hung notes, or it can produce some sort of like lack of note stopping info. I don't fully understand it. I just know that this is what's happened. So when I have another MIDI device selected and I'm playing it, and I'm going about my business, it will sometimes hang on that device because the MiniFreak currently has it selected on there. The workaround is to get rid of the MIDI input on there, but then I can't write parts with the MiniFreak onto the Digitakt. So luckily most synths respond to the all notes off thing. So if I double tap stop, all the synths get notes off messages. However, the Dreadbox, the Typhon Dreadbox, does not seem to respond to that. So when there's a hung note on the Dreadbox, it basically stays there. Also, it doesn't always change programs as well, which is kind of weird. So now it's officially back to that patch. Anyways, where was I? So you might be wondering how I have this all set up to be able to do this. The MIDI in is being received from the MiniFreak, and I have the MiniFreak being sent out channel 16. So on here, if I go to MIDI config, and then I go channels, if you go all the way down to auto channel, I have it set to 16. So auto channel is whatever track you have selected receives MIDI from that channel specifically. So it's a way to not have to like keep on switching channels on your MIDI controller to be able to control all these channels. You just select it and you can play it. I have a whole video I talked about this exact process. So that's, you know, on the channel if you want to check it out, how to set up multiple pieces of electron gear and talk to each other. So yeah, this is a little bit different in that the MiniFreak is also a sound module that's getting controlled by the Digitakt while also sending MIDI to all these devices or writing MIDI into the channels here. So yeah, channel 16 is being sent out of the MiniFreak, but it's responding to channel 1. So number 9 here, I have it set to channel 1. This is controlling the MiniFreak right here. Now I have the volume turned all the way down on the MiniFreak right now, so I can just treat it as a MIDI controller. So that's actually how I would normally do most of the setup, is I would first turn down the MiniFreak completely and then write parts for the samples and then Argon, Cobalt, the bass, you know, Typhon. So that's kind of the general way. And then at the end, I would write a part for the MiniFreak or consider playing the MiniFreak live, because that's a possibility too. Maybe we should illustrate this actually. I'm gonna copy this pattern and go to somewhere else, maybe here. Yeah, we'll go to B05. I'm gonna paste this pattern and I'm gonna clear it out. As you can hear, MiniFreak is being triggered by 9. So let's maybe drop the tempo to make something kind of chill. I'm gonna put on the click. At this point, you might be wondering, why don't I just use the MPC? Or maybe you've been wondering that the entire time for this video. I love the MPC. I use it all the time. I've got the MPC 1 off to my side right here. It is a part of the majority of the productions that we do. We also have an MPC Live too. Meems uses it all the time to write beats. And like, it's a fantastic device. One thing that I don't like about the MPC though, is the step sequencer. I find myself basically never using it unless I'm triggering CV gate outs. I think that's the only time I actually use the step sequencer specifically. I use the grid sequencer, the whatever it's called, you know, the grid to show all the notes. I use that all the time on the MPC. But the actual step sequencer, I don't find myself ever interested in using it. Whereas something with the Digitakt, I'm going to always use the step sequencer. Like, I just go like this, got a little going. Also immediately just start adjusting stuff. So go like this. Give some dynamics here to some of these. You know, it's got a little bit of a thing going. So let's just do a simple kick and snare type of thing. Oh yeah, so I pretty much always do unquantized recording and then quantize later, so I can retain some humanistic feel to it and then adjust accordingly. I'd rather have the information of the way I played it as opposed to always quantizing everything down to the beat. I do have to adjust the beginning note though, and I'll show you that here. So let's do this. And for whatever reason, I just decided to put the snare on 8. I don't know why. I was like, kick snare, kick snare. Probably could have done it. I probably should have done it over here, but who cares? It is the way it is. Now I would quantize a bit. So let's quantize the kick and also quantize the snare a bit more. So there's that. Now here's where you have to watch out when you do unquantized recording. The first note has a chance of being too early, which means it doesn't play. I did it on this one. So for instance, if I pull this back to negative space and then play, there's no kick on the 1. So if you have that experience, you got to just put this on the grid and then you'll have no problem having that kick immediately trigger the first time it comes around. Usually put a little crash in the beginning So we do that. Also, now here's where the trigs come in really handy, is I like to only have this trigger the first time out of maybe a block of 2 or a block of 4 or something like that. So it's not every time it goes around, you know? Kind of create a little bit of variation right there. See, stuff like that, I don't think I would actually use in the MPC. I'd be like, I have to play this on the MPC, as opposed to just putting a trigger. I don't know, it's weird. I'm sure there's people out there, maybe you're one of them watching right now, that really enjoyed the step sequencer on the MPC. And if you do, great. Drop a comment. Let me know how you use it. For me, personally, I don't find it intuitive. The majority of everything else, though, on the MPC, I really enjoy. So there's that. Anyways. I sampled some Pigments presets, effect sounds, and man, I find it cumbersome and like not immediate, but when I do sample into the box, I always enjoy what I get out of it. So I don't know, it's one of those things. I like the sampler. It also makes it mono, so you don't get stereo samples out of it. But for whatever reason, the conversion and the process and like the tools that you have, like the bitrate reduction, I always just find it really fascinating sounding. So I got this like creepy sounding thing right here. In fact, we could play it. Pretty sure I recorded all these in C, the samples. So let's actually record something here. So this is kind of sounding a bit demonic. That note right there, this first note of this sample, was not on the grid, so I had to move that in. I'm going to leave this unquantized though, because it doesn't really need to be like, you know, super tight or anything like that. I'm also going to turn this down just a bit, because I don't want it to dominate the track. Okay, we got that. Could throw a little of this in there. What's nice about using the keyboard with samples is that you get velocity automatically when you play it. Let's try it. So it's a little loose, a little sloppy feeling, but we're going to give it a bit of quantize. Yeah, it's feeling pretty good. So I got this like snare kind of washed out feel. Use it as a little effect. A little messy at the end there. We'll keep it for now because it's not that big of a deal. This one we'll just do accents on. Okay, so we got some sample-based stuff for this track. Now I'd probably write a bass line for this now. So where are we at? Kind of keeping with this like dark feel. So it gave it a little bit of variation. I'm not really like 100% sold on that bass line, but it is what it is right now. I'm going to check this first note, and it is not on the grid, so I'm going to fix that. Okay, so we got some sort of groove going on. Now we need Argon and Cobalt type of stuff. So Argon. Let's put some distortion in there. Actually, might find something else. That could work, but let's go for a different program here. I'm gonna do the simple arpeggio. So with this, I'm gonna redo this. I actually have this set up to be half the scale, so I can actually hold these chords for 8 bars instead of 4 bars, which is really nice, given that there's this limitation in the Digitakt of just 4 bars. And I'm not a fan of that limitation, but I get by with it. And this is one of the ways I get by with it. So I'm gonna use the step sequencer for this. And I'm going to hold the trigger, and then I'm going to put in the chord that I want, and then I need to give it the length that I want, which I think is 32. Maybe. Let's see. No, it's 16. Yeah, so then another chord right there. Okay, so then we'll do this. Do 16 on here. Now, we're going to copy this trig, go to the next page, and like paste, 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 paste. Now we're going to create some variation. So back to page 2. So this is bar 3 and 4, technically, if you want to follow along with that. We'll make some variation here. Go like that. And then this one we'll do like that. And then we'll keep going up. Yeah, I just know I'm rotating between C minor and E flat major. Or some variation of it. So let's see how that feels. So that's working. Let's to finish this out, let's go Cobalt real quick. We need something else. This could work. Yeah, something like that. It's perfect. This is also in a half scale. I think I'm going to change this back to main scale for the sake of this demonstration. I'd probably go 8 bars for variation on this as well, if I was going to finish this. Okay. Quantize a bit. Cool. Now, final piece of the puzzle is the MiniFreak. Could stick with this patch. What I like about the MiniFreak is it's got this cold digital soundscape thing going on. And it has the option of feeling warm, but it's like, why not explore those like digital textures that it's giving, you know? I think it really excels in creating different sonic landscapes. Actually, it feels like it does a really good job of doing what a wavetable synth does without having actual wavetable stuff going in the MiniFreak, which is interesting, you know? Let's just fool around. I still have the click on. Yeah. Anyways, that's the idea right there. One final piece of this puzzle is this is a hybrid setup. So it's not fully DAW-less. I will ultimately record each one of these individual instruments into Ableton Live. Right now they're all going into a mixer, and then that mixer has direct outs, which I can then patch into my DAW for finer tuning when we ultimately record it. And I prefer to work that way because I'm an audio engineer, so I like using my gear. I like to compress things separately and EQ them and all that stuff. I like to add little bits of, you know, reverb and delay additionally on top of things already to kind of like merge things together in a certain way. So that's me. That's my take on things. I like doing it that way, but it's also because I have the skill. And if you're starting out and you just get into DAW-less, like, don't worry about it. Just have fun, make jams, you know, track them to like a 2-track recorder, a Zoom recorder, something like that. It'll be fun. And then you can always process those files later. Once you start tuning your ears a bit deeper and you start hearing things that you'd want to adjust after a performance, that's when you start thinking about multi-tracking things. But in the beginning, don't worry about it. Just have fun with the stuff, you know? Yeah, that's pretty much the setup and what we've been doing for the past couple of weeks or past week or so. Looking forward to finishing them and putting them out as well. Obviously, they'll be on the channel when they're ready. And yeah, also, if you want to pick up any of this gear, we prefer Zounds. That's our main place that we go to buy our stuff. And we're also an affiliate as well. So if you do want to support the channel and you want to pick up some gear and you want to use a cool shop, Zounds is the place for that. If you enjoyed the video, a like and comment would be greatly appreciated. Also, a subscribe is also appreciated if you haven't already. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time for another one. Deuces.